Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our video all about engineering notebooks and expectations. For this video today, we're going to walk you through the purposes of your notebook. We're going to talk about the basic setup online and the expectations of your notebook as we progress through the projects in the class. Now, for principles of engineering, we're going to use our electronic engineering notebooks solely for projects. So you'll have your digital notebook for projects, you'll have your physical notebook for notes and things that we do in class, and then you'll have your packet for some practice things. So let's focus on the engineering notebook to start off with. Now, thinking about an engineering notebook, that is a legal document where you are going to record your process, your results, your mistakes, every single day. So you may have a slide per day, you may have a few slides per day, just showing exactly the process and the progress that you've made every single time you're working on a project. Now, in the workforce, we like to use this to look at old work. Maybe you have some prior projects that you've messed with that you want to check back and kind of steal some ideas from. Maybe there's some other people that are in your engineering group and they can look through and quickly figure out exactly what you've done, maybe help figure out some mistakes, have that collaboration piece. And then unfortunately, it's also evidence of your work, so showing that you are actually doing the work that you say you are doing. Now, one thing to keep in mind is a lot of times if you are working in an industry, the work you put into your engineering notebook is not actually yours. Typically, it belongs to the company that you're working for. Maybe it belongs to the grant that gives you money. So when we say that electronic notebook is yours, it's not incredibly accurate because a lot of the ideas in there belong to the people that provide money. Now, I'd love to show you some work that I have done through some research projects in the summer, through the USDA and the FDA, but they took their notebook back. All the work that I've done, all the documentation that I've done doesn't belong to me, it belongs to them, so I don't actually have that to show for you. Now, obviously, we are not a company. I am not your boss. I'm not paying you, but we still want to kind of follow those guidelines so that if you were to jump into a cool engineering internship or some research or a company later on, you have a little bit of an idea, you have a little bit of experience as we're going forward. So let's start it up. We're going to begin by setting up your notebook. I'll take you through some tips and tricks how to use the software to help you out. And then let's talk through some examples and some expectations for your notebook going forward in the class. Now make sure you have your digital engineering notebook copy open and ready to go. I'm going to help you set up a couple of things just to show some of the functionality, and then I'll show you some do's and don'ts, some tips and tricks as you are going forward. So you should have the first 3 slides that I have on here. So let's get it going. Now, as you're going forward, remember this is your notebook. You can be creative with it. You can choose different backgrounds, you can choose different transitions, different layouts, whatever, but keep in mind that this is also a professional legal document. So make sure that you are spinning a little bit of your creativity, but also following the guidelines that we need to follow to create a good quality notebook. So this is kind of your title page, tossing your name on there, your class period, things like that. If there's some pictures you want to throw as we go through the class, that's a great place to do it. Now moving on to slide 2, let's check out our table of contents. And this is going to be uniquely useful. Even though in the physical notebook we could figure out what page everything was on, we're going to link the actual content to the slide that we're talking about to make it even easier to navigate. So let's do that together. I'm going to give you a quick freebie. If you go to slide number 3, we've got this little section for a title. So your first project is going to be the coin mover. And the very first section to organize your work is define the problem. There's a little bit of freebie just to keep everything nice and neat. Boom! Easy peasy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, cool, my define the problem work is on here. I need to make sure that my table of content is linked to that page. So I'm just going to highlight everything by triple clicking on it, or you can just highlight everything. I'm going to hit Control-C to copy it, boop, just the text, and I'm going to stick it in that first little content page. Boom. And I say, oh, that does not look super pretty. Maybe we make it smaller just so it fits in that little spot. Cool. Not too bad. We can also put the date on there. Let's say it's, I don't know, 9/27. 2020. Now notice how this page also has the date there. It's also got a page number, so what you can do is you can just make copies over and over and over and over of a template that you like and just kind of edit the page number that you have. So now to link it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that whole thing. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to go down to link. So we could put a URL of something that we're looking for, but what's going to be really, really nice is slides in the presentation. And I'm going to scroll down to slide 3 because that is the slide that is CoinMover define the problem. So let's say you go back and you want to see what your CoinMover looked like way back in the day. What you can do is click on it, click on slide 3, boom, you pop right to that spot. So as you continue to add pages, make sure you are constantly updating your table of contents immediately as you go. And if you need to make another copy of the table, for sure, go ahead and copy that slide and keep going. Now let's talk a little bit about some expectations, some things about your organization, some things about your neatness. Now some really big things are making sure that you're well organized. You have the title of the thing that you are designing. And typically that comes from the checklist for the specific project. So if we look at an example page right here, in terms of organization and neatness, this is hot trash. I mean, if you look at the picture, it's rotated weird. It's not cropped at all. We have random text over here just kind of floating around. The date's not filled in. We don't have a title. This is not good at all. This is real bad. So let's make a few modifications and see what we can do to kind of fix that neatness piece. So we have our picture nice and rotated. We have it cropped to only show the things that we need. We have a title which shows the organization, and we have all of our info kind of evenly spaced. And what's really nice about Google Slides is as you drag stuff around, the red lines will pop up to show things are lining up. Use the heck out of those. That is guaranteed neatness right there. So I noticed that it is centered with the picture that I put in there, so that's probably a pretty good spot to throw that stuff on there. So that's kind of a better example of what we can potentially do. Now, a few things. Here's another example of another way you might be able to organize it. Remember, there's no one perfect way to do it, just making sure it's nice, neat, and organized. Some things to remember, similar from IED. When you upload a picture, your picture cannot have pencil in it at all whatsoever. If you're doing calculations, if you're doing sketches, always be in black pen. If you see our example here, all of it is done in pen. We have a beautiful sketch, really nice, not isometric, but a nice intro sketch. We can make the words around it maybe a little bit more neat, the annotations, but pretty dang good. Also make sure that your figures are clearly labeled. This one doesn't do that great of a job of doing that. We do have kind of a title of what we're calculating, IMA of wheel and axle, but it's not super great. Maybe we can edit that a little bit to make it more clear. But for calculations, sometimes it can be difficult to do it on slides. So if you prefer to write it out and upload the picture, that is perfectly fine, but make sure you're still maintaining that neatness. Make sure you're still maintaining that organization that we are looking for. Same thing with your sketches. Make sure that you have nice, neat, organized in line. So we could probably take a little better picture of this, but you know, we're going. We're getting better. Now this is kind of a weird one. Let's jump to slide 7. Deleting information, just like in your physical notebook, we don't want to erase any information or black out any information. What we need to do is just cross it out. So what I did was, maybe the next day I look back and said, oh boy, I did not calculate IMA correctly. So what I did is I came back, I highlighted the text that I was looking for, I went to Format, Text, and Strike Through. And that just crossed everything out. So when that happens, make sure you are striking through, you have your initials and the date that you did it.
and also your correction. So maybe I just flippy-flop those two numbers right there and had it there. Now, it's very dangerous to go back and manipulate things. Do not add things to your slides on days prior, which means I cannot add a picture to the 27th if it's the 29th. The only thing I could do is potentially do a correction just like this. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are fine. Figure out another way to show that. And it may take a few notebooks for you to kind of figure out what you need on each little chunk. Now, this might be a little bit more rare with a digital notebook, but if there is blank space, just like you would in a regular notebook, so maybe I boosted up my text a little bit here, cross it out, make a little line like we have right here, and toss your initials to say, hey, this was intentionally blank, and I'm not going to go back and add stuff to it. Keep in mind that we do have revision history. We can check back, and if your dates don't match up, so if you went back a few days and added things or changed things, that is not okay. You need to document what you did on each specific day without changing the past.
And that's our engineering notebook expectations in a nutshell. So hopefully you can use this video as you are building your projects. You can always look back at these different sections to gain a little bit of clarity as you are progressing forward with the class. Now, if you prefer not to check out the video, there are some PowerPoints down in extra resources for you to check out as well. So hopefully there's a lot of resources to help you become successful as you create some really awesome projects throughout the class.